Hey, my name's Nathan, this is the Future Game Show, and most of the time in games, you're playing the good guy. Sometimes you're playing the bad guy, sometimes you have to press X to be the good guy, or square to be the bad guy, or sometimes you think you're the good guy, but actually, you're secretly the bad guy. Shock, horror, gasp, someone in the audience faints, call an ambulance, too late, they're already dead. That's right, because today we're looking at the top 10 games where you were secretly the bad guy all along. And as always, one of these entries has been chosen by you, the viewer. And if you'd like to see yourself in next week's video, then comment below on what you think the best minigame in gaming is. But right now it is all about the baddies, and beware for spoilers, because this is the top 10 games in which you were secretly a big bad baddie. Number 10, Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Castlevania Lords of Shadow was seen by Konami as a reboot of the series and even got Kojima on board to help produce. Sadly though, we never got the moment where you had to plug your controller into slot 2 to stop Dracula from reading your memory card and finding out your blood type. You play Gabriel Belmont of the titular good and righteous Belmont family, and a kind of Devil May Cry, Bayonetta hack and slash with Uncharted type puzzles. He learns of a mask which has the power to bring back the dead and wants to find it to revive his recently murdered wife. That's a theme that might come up again on this list. He's fantastically voiced by Robert Carlyle, the president of Scotland, my country. And we also get Patrick Stewart giving the most theatrical performance to every single bloody line, like he's walking the boards at Stratford, as he should, I might add.
He is unlikely to welcome both of us with open arms.
The game did so well it got 2 DLCs, and at the end of the second DLC, Gabriel Belmont becomes Dracula himself. Oh no! A Belmont becomes the family's arch nemesis. For all these years we thought the Castlevania series was a noble battle against evil, but no, it's actually just an embarrassing family spat. Number 9, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. In Final Fantasy Tactics Advance for the Game Boy Advance, you and your school friends are sucked through a magic monster book into a fantasy realm. Exciting for some, but just another Tuesday in the world of Final Fantasy. You spend the game trying to get back to the real world by destroying this fantasy realm. The only problem is, all your pals are having much better lives here. Your brother, who's in a wheelchair, can now wield magic, he can walk, and he has his own clan. Your friend, who in the real world is bullied at school and recently lost his mother, is transformed into a prince, and his mother is alive and well in this world, living as the queen. But nope, sorry lads, I ain't feeling it, so kiss your mum and your ability to walk goodbye, because I'm pretty sure I left my oven on in the real world, so we really should get back to it. They do try to justify it in the end by saying that the main characters learn lessons in the fantasy world that gives them the confidence and wisdom to tackle their hardships back in the real world, but come on, it still seems like this fantasy world was a much better place to live. Also, quite a hypocritical thing for a video game to say, you know, those things that we play, those fantastical worlds that we escape into to get away from this current hellscape of a life we have to live. Number 8, Hypnospace Outlaw. In Hypnospace Outlaw, you play as a moderator for a web service in 1999 and centres around the Hypno-S bands that allow users to browse the World Wide Web while they sleep. It's an amazing game if you're ever nostalgic for that era of the internet where connection speeds were simply too slow to post offensive opinions. You're tasked with reporting users who are breaking rules like copyright infringement, harassment, illegal commerce. You're often forced to report people for violations even though they seem like decent people who intend no harm, but you make more Hypno-coin the more violations you report. If a particular user racks up enough violations, you can flag their account for even more Hypno-coin, which can lead to them being banned. So it actively makes you look for moments where you can flag people or ban people so you can make more money. And this is set in 1999, and if your bones creak like mine, you'll remember there was a lot of panic about something called Y2K. Look, just ask your grandparents. Throughout the game, you slowly get closer to New Year's Eve on 1999, and a bug on that night leads to several people dying on New Year's. This bug caused every Hypnospace headband in use at the time to crash due to a faulty update, and how many people are killed depends on how you played the game. If you banned someone from the Hypnospace, they couldn't be online when the bug hit and they wouldn't die, leading to this shocking moment where you realise that being the good guy, allowing people to get away with these things, not being too harsh, has made you the bad guy. All these people have died because you didn't do your job properly. It's a nice twist on the rug pull formula. Number 7, Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain is sadly remembered these days as the game in which you press X to shout Jason in the most demented way humanly possible. Like an alien trying to blend in with the human race, but he's only ever read the name Jason.
Jason! 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 Jason!
But what most people forget is that Heavy Rain also made you use your analog sticks in the most demented way possible too, and that's about it. No, I'm only joking. To be fair, Heavy Rain is a schlocky, fun murder mystery that maybe hasn't aged as well as its metascore would make you think. Playing as a selection of characters, all of you are on the hunt for the Origami Killer, a murderer who abducts children and leaves a lovely little paper swan at the crime scene. Also, just to bagsy it now, if I become a serial killer, I will 100% become the Nintendo Labo Killer. It'll be expensive, but my god, what a bit it will be. As the game goes on, it becomes pretty clear that large and lovable private detective Scott Shelby might not be as lovable as you first thought. When he enters a room with a friend, only to emerge in a panic, stating that the Origami Killer appeared out of nowhere and killed said friend, and that he has to wipe his fingerprints off everything or everyone will think I'm the Origami Killer, you start to think to yourself, Scott, do you think I'm a idiot? So surprise! Yep, this whole time you have been playing as the Origami Killer, and large and in charge Scott Shelby isn't actually a PI, but a twisted killer who likes to visit his victims' families to bask in the misery he's created. Lovely man. Depending on what ending you get, Scott could get his just desserts or could escape scot-free, which is a very funny joke because that's also his name. Number 6, Shadow of the Colossus. Who can blame young Wanda for travelling to the Forbidden Land to try and revive his dead partner, especially when upon arrival, a big friendly voice offers to do exactly that, for just the very small fee of killing 16 angry building-sized monsters. Some who kick about on land, some who fly, some who live underwater. But put all 16 in a grave and he'll bring the missus back for you, no bother. Easy, right? Well, turns out slaughtering all these beautiful giants and allowing the dark black essence inside to overcome you, causing you to instantly black out and experience strange visions isn't a good sign. Or so my doctor tells me. Yep, it turns out the disembodied voice talking to you is actually that of evil entity Dorman. It also turns out that the 16 Colossi each hold a segment of Dorman's evil essence, keeping him powerless and at bay. And thanks to you killing all 16 Colossi, he's now free and ready to continue whatever evil hobbies he was up to before being imprisoned. So it turns out the Forbidden Land was forbidden for a good reason. I'd make it clearer, to be honest. I'd put up a sign or something. You really can't be too safe in this instance. Number 5, Braid. Braid was a pioneer, one of the first indie games to say, what if a game played vaguely like Mario but also made no real sense and at the same time was kind of about trauma or something? You play as Tim, who's on a quest to rescue a princess from a horrible monster. The final level, for some reason, is played in reverse, with Tim and the princess being separated but working together to help her flee the beast's awful clutches. She gets back to her home, jumps into bed, and Tim watches her peacefully sleeping from outside. Oh, a happy ending. Or is it? Because then this reversed level plays in reverse, shown as the correct picture of events, with the princess waking up to find creepy Tim watching her sleep. She then runs from Tim and you realise that all the traps you dodged were actually set off by the princess as ways to stop Tim. And that awful creature at the end actually saves the day. He's a knight in shining armour. So it turns out that in actual fact, you are the beast that the princess needs saved from. All in all, a pretty awful day for Tim, to be honest. You thought someone swiping left on you was bad? Well, what about if they were actively trying to drop you into fire? But also, all of this is maybe a metaphor for the creation of the atomic bomb? Sure. Yeah, why not? Number 4, Prototype. Prototype is a great game. Mainly because I can consume an old woman, wear her form, parkour everywhere like it's 2007, and then throw a man into the sea. What more do you need to know? Right, okay, I'll tell you a bit more. You play as Alex Mercer, waking with amnesia and trying to figure out why he has body horror-like superpowers, but the rest of the city is dying thanks to a horrific virus. His journey takes him all over New York City, killing his way to the answer. And well, it turns out it was him. Back in his pre-being able to morph into a pensioner days, Alex worked on a super evil virus. That wasn't his real name, I've just made that up. When the project was shut down, he stole a sample of this virus as insurance, and when cornered by gunmen ordered to kill him, decided to take it out on the rest of the world and smash that bad boy on the floor, condemning everyone in New York City to a horrible, slow death. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. Number 3, Prey 2017. And this week's user entry is from @Dr. Lignatius, who suggested Prey 2017. In Prey, you start your first day at a new job. But surprise, you actually have amnesia and have been working here for a number of years, developing the Neuromod project with your brother Alex, which involves extracting abilities from an alien organism called the Typhon to give humans supernatural powers. These are installed with a very pleasant needle in the eye. Jesus, do you not do a suppository for him? Please, I'd rather do that than the eye needle. Thing is, when you remove these neuromods, you lose all your memories from when you first had it installed. So when you start the game and awkwardly find out that there's an outbreak of these strange Typhon aliens all over the space station and everybody's died and the place is destroyed and it's pretty much a hellscape, you've no idea that this is really down to you and your research. Nothing like being nervous for your first day only to find out you've actually been there for 3 years and caused the death of everybody on the station. Yeah, I'll see myself out. But it doesn't end there, because there's a twist upon that twist as a post-credit sequence reveals that the whole game was a VR dream. And you are actually a Typhon organism that Alex is trying to teach human empathy to. It's then up to you to decide whether you want to make peace with the human race or end the game as the ultimate villain by sticking a tentacle through his spleen. Number 2. Silent Hill 2. Surprise! I have yet again been able to get Silent Hill 2 on one of these lists. I've gone power mad and no one can stop me. But in terms of talking about games with a surprise twist of villainy, it's hard to argue that Silent Hill 2 shouldn't be on this list. The game kicks off as James receives a letter from his wife asking him to meet her at their special place, Silent Hill. Aww. Thing is though, his wife's been dead for 3 years, so either something spooky's going down or the post office have got a lot to answer for. Cut to a horrific journey through James's own personal hell, brought to us by this nightmare's sponsor, the good old gods of Silent Hill. But in reaching the climax of the game, James discovers that Mary didn't die 3 years ago. She was diagnosed with an incurable illness 3 years ago and actually died very recently due to an unavoidable case of pillow to the face prescribed by a Dr. James Sunderland. Oh, hi, that's my name. Oh, bugger. Yep, turns out this dopey loser you've been playing is actually a dopey murderer, and all the horrific creatures stalking you merely puppets pushing you towards this realisation. It was a great twist, but sadly one the franchise has struggled to shake, as the subsequent 20 years of Silent Hill games have all been pretty much themed around a character who has forgotten that they've done something horrible. Someone should really test the water in Silent Hill. It feels like someone's putting something in there. Number 1. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. If you're watching this video and under the age of 30, it might be hard to believe, but people used to like Star Wars. I know, it was far from perfect, but every now and then we go to the cinema and watch people try to hit each other with laser swords, and it was a jolly good time. The Knights of the Old Republic series was a highlight of this bygone era. The RPG series from pre-Mass Effect BioWare offered a rich and deep RPG adventure set in the early days of the Star Wars universe. In the first game you play as an amnesiac Jedi trying to track down their past and save the galaxy from Darth Revan, an evil master tactician highly skilled in the dark side and lightsaber combat who strikes fear into the Jedi and inspires loyalty to any Sith they meet. And what was that? I'm actually Darth Revan. Oh, right, okay. Yes, turns out that bout of amnesia you've been suffering from was hiding the fact that you are in fact the most evil Sith to grace the galaxy. Could someone possibly just hit me with a big rock? Some more of that amnesia might be quite good right now, actually. So it's up to you at this point as the player to decide if you want to continue down your rediscovered light side or return to your former dark side glory. This twist in Knights of the Old Republic felt like a bold move, on a par with the best Star Wars moments, and is still talked about to this day and referenced in many a list video exactly like this one. A remake of Knights of the Old Republic was announced back in 2021, but has maybe run into some development trouble. Current developer Saber Interactive have assured us earlier this year though that the remake is alive and well. So fingers crossed a brand new generation of players can relive the moment in which they find out their goody two-shoes Jedi is actually Space Hitler. So there you have it, the top 10 games where you were secretly the bad guy. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? Have we missed any? Let us know down below. Oh, and don't forget to reply with what you think the best gaming mini-games are for next week's video. I've been Nathan, this has been FGS, and while you're here, you may as well subscribe. Go on. You don't want to be a bad guy, do you? Only bad guys don't subscribe. Yeah, got you there. Woo!